Welcome back to the Empowered Woman Podcast, the #1 show on personal growth, visibility, and profit for women entrepreneurs. If you're wanting to start believing in yourself, giving yourself permission to succeed, and let your voice be heard to make an impact in the world as an entrepreneur, this is the place for you. I am so glad that you're here. My name is Marta Spurk, and I'm your host, triplet mom, woman empowerment coach, and all things motivation extraordinaire. Welcome again, and let's dive into today's episode. Hi, Joseph. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Definitely. Excited to be on your podcast.
Yay. I'm so excited. So I was on your show not too long ago, and it was fun because it's always nice to record in person. You have all the apparatuses and all of the things. So I felt really, really fancy. Mine's not as fancy. It's on Zoom, but I'm excited to have you on as I've gotten to know you in the last few months, and I'm super amazed at all the things that you have going on. So why don't you tell us who you are and what you do?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. And it was such a great pleasure to have you on. We dove deep instantly on our podcast. About me. So currently I operate 18 businesses, and I hold the license on a nonprofit as well. And shortly here, I should have a 19th business.
Wow.
And a lot of people would say that that's a lot. Actually, I take about 3 to 5 naps a day, and all of my businesses are passive income based. In fact, the nonprofit is the one that eats up most of my time right now and interrupts my nap schedule.
Aww.
But yeah, I grew up, I wanted to be an animator for Disney. Through some career choices, mishaps, redirections, I ended up kind of in business. And ultimately, I ended up designing light fixtures for hotels and casinos. So that's where I spent the bulk of my career. So if you've been out to Vegas, I designed the chandelier at the Chandelier Bar at the Cosmopolitan. It's a 3.5-story crystal chandelier. It's in 2012, it was the largest chandelier in the world. I designed that and oversaw the project. And then then I worked on the concept work for what is now the largest chandelier at the Indonesian airport. So that was the bulk of my career. And then I went into tech, and I failed at my first tech venture. The second tech venture, I had dove into the startup ecosystem, and I learned how to network. I learned all the different things about launching a business, raising capital, that sort of thing. And yeah, it's been a crazy journey. It's taken me 11 years to figure out passive income. So now I kind of live in that space. If it involves employees or too many employees, or if it doesn't fit my model, I take an easy pass because it's got to fit my criteria. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. I remember, so quick parenthesis here, because you were one of the sponsors for the Author Summit that I put on. Thank you again for participating. And it was so fun because then I learned a little bit more about your story. And that's when I was like, oh my gosh, I need to interview you for my podcast and hear more about the journey. Because that's one of the things that I always say, and I repeat myself a lot on this show, when people start telling their stories, how it didn't just happened when they were born, came out the womb, the business was set up super easily, right? And it's super encouraging to hear from people, especially successful people, that it took 11 years for you to get to the point where you are today. So thank you so much for sharing all of that. And next time I am in Vegas, I'm going to have to go look for your chandelier. Or if I go to the Indonesian airport, which I don't know about that one. I think Vegas is an easier.
Whichever one happens first.
We shall see. And then I'll take pictures. But I would love to hear, because I think the first thing that may stood out to our listeners is, wait a minute, 18 businesses? I am having a hard time keeping up with my one or my half for those that are still starting out. How does that happen? And how are you managing? Because it's passive income, so I understand that concept, but I would love to hear like the progression in the 11 years until the point that you are today.
Yeah. So first, I did it wrong. Second, I started up. I built a team, and I went that route. My team was exceptional. So I cut my teeth in the startup space under the idea that you hired and you attracted people that are much smarter than you. So my team on my second startup included the brand strategist from Adobe, the director of marketing for the Honda Center, the president of Tech Coast Angels, the founder of Bright White, the CTO, former CTO of Gateway Computers, the CFO of Olaclip. We had the UI UX from Auto Trader for a hot minute, HGTV's celebrity design rock star Callie Ellis, and then developers from Nortel Systems, Toyota, Google, and Amazon. And then my advisors were Jeff Weiner from LinkedIn, Nick Bell, the VP of Snapchat, and Michael Jones, the founder of MySpace. So surrounded myself with just a room full of smart people. Back then, this was 2014, and the mantra in startup was the CEO should be kind of the dumbest person at the table. My job was to cast vision and recruit, and that's what I did. For all that was awesome, and we had a killer team, and still, and to no fault of anybody's, it just was the thinking at the time. We were launching a social platform for the design community, and at the time, social platforms thought that if you got to 1 billion users, think Twitter, think Pinterest, think all your social platforms. At the time, those guys didn't actually even plan on making money. They got to 1 billion users, and the idea was get to 1 billion users and then figure out how to charge everybody $1. But in 2014 through even 2017, it was a big no-no in the space to charge for advertising. Right. And turns out everybody went on advertising. So, so we had the best, worst advice at the time. So that was that model. I raised money and I did that. And I learned that, and this was something good to note. When you start a business, it doesn't have to be your money. We think small businesses think banks. But something that I learned along that path of this journey, or that portion of the journey, was so people with ideas tend to not have money. People with money tend to not have ideas.
I love that.
There's a gap there, and if you put the two together, you might find your investor. Please don't use your own money. It probably, that's going to be the worst, because if it doesn't work out, then you're broke. Yeah. And you're not the person who has that risk. A person who has money but doesn't have an idea, they can take that risk. You can't. So please don't use your own money when you start your business. Go out, take a little bit longer to start your business, but go find somebody else's money.
Oh my gosh, that's such great advice. And that is not something that's being talked about a whole lot. And that's my segue question. And my follow-up question here is because you said, I learned how to network. And you're like a master connector, especially in getting to know all these people. To then form a team, you have to have met lots of different people and built those relationships to get to the point of, hey, let's start this venture together. And I love what you're talking about in raising money, because that was something else I wanted to ask you. But let's go baby steps here. So the first part, I love the advice of don't use your own money, because what comes to mind for me is so many coaches out there who are charging thousands and thousands of dollars to teach you how to make money in your business, but you don't have money. So then you go in debt paying these people to help you make money. And then sometimes it doesn't work out. And that's just terrible. So we'll get to the finances in a minute. I would love to hear more about your experience and your advice on networking, because as business owners, we know it's important to network. How that happens and how it could be done in an effective way, debatable. So tell us more.
Yeah, so two major concepts on that. One, I'm sitting in my living room right now. I am rarely here. Nothing important, nothing good is happening in your living room. So whenever possible, get outside, go get into groups of people. Do not stay at home. Do not stay in the office. Nothing important. You're not going to meet anybody substantially new there. I was out with a buddy of mine just the other day. There was this lady sitting next to me. And it was a little abrupt on my part. I was like, oh, hey, so what is it that you do? And she was like, really? Not even all loafers? It turns out that she sits on the board of a massive Hispanic women leadership group. She sits on a board with a couple museums, and she's very active. Had I not turned around and just struck up a conversation, I would never have had the chance to meet with her. Now we're looking at collaborating. She's got all kinds of resources, and I can help her as well. So step one, do not stay at home. Do not sit in your office. Business owners tend to isolate. We just don't have the time to do things. Forget that. Get out. Oops, and is my battery going to die? Yes, it is. I'm going to plug in. I'm so sorry, Marcus.
Okay, that's okay. I can pause. That is such great advice. And I don't think anyone on my show has ever said that, to be 100% honest with you. Like, get out of the internet and the social media and the interwebs and actually meet with people in person. And obviously with the reality that we
do you mind if I'll kind of overlap? So I'll say, I'll kind of pick off, not where I left off, but I'll rewind a little bit. So had I not gotten out that night with my friend and turned to the lady next to me, I just wouldn't have made that connection. And it is a great connection. And then I'm going to be able to work with her. She's going to be able to work with me, and our networks expand. So that's the one, get out of your office.
Yeah.
Business owners are notorious for sitting in their office and becoming isolated. Mm-hmm. My second tip is, so as humans, we're designed to look outward. That's how our eyes face. Yeah. So the perspective, you and I could be looking at the same cup. Mm-hmm. You're sitting across from me. I'm sitting on my side. And on my side, the glass is going to look one way. Mm-hmm. On your side, it's going to look a different way. And that's just how we're programmed. We're not programmed to see things from other people's perspective. Mm-hmm. So when I go out and I network, the tendency is to quickly go into what is it that I do. So I might ask you what you do, but really what I want to do is tell you what I do.
Yes.
And that's not a good way to network. That's a good way to advertise.
Yeah.
But personally with me, what I want to do is I want to understand what you do. I might even dive further and ask you some more questions about what you do, because what I really want to do is connect you with my network. There's somebody that I know who could benefit from you and that you could benefit from. Mm-hmm. And if I don't know, then we might just be friends, but, or later on I might remember, oh, you know what? Marta's the person to talk to, mm-hmm. So yeah. I'm always trying to feed my network and create introductions. Mm-hmm. And I call that feeding my network because I will shoot over ideas. I don't know where they're going to go. I don't know. I don't care if they don't go anywhere. That's not my job. My job is to just connect the two.
Mm-hmm. Oh, this is
so those are my two networking advice.
Yeah. Well, and I would say you could coin the saying, networking is not advertising. That's what came to mind to me. That's like, wow, mind blown. That's so true. Because when people think you need a network, all right, let me go somewhere to talk about myself and see if I can get some leads. That's not what the actual name of the word implies. It's exactly what you said. Let me connect you with my network, right? Let me see what you do so that I can be supportive to you. And hopefully you will do the same for me as well. And if we can find a way of working together, hiring each other, even better. But that's not where it's the intention should be at to start out with. So those are valuable.
And then to further dive into that, this struck me 2 weeks ago. I was on social media and I went to my profile and all I saw was just me, kind of just promoting all my different businesses. It's just me. And I was sitting there going, I was getting sick of my own ads as I was scrolling through my social media. I was getting sick of it. I've got 5,000 followers just on my personal account on Facebook. I must be pissing off like everybody in that feed. Poor people. I just keep vomiting on them. And this is fun. And I invite people to take part in this. And I'll shoot you over the script that I use.
Okay.
But I launched this hashtag feature a friend challenge.
Ooh.
And all this is I just copy and paste. It says hashtag feature a friend. Simply pick a friend and share their posts. And so today I'm featuring blank. And so then I just copy that text, and then I go into a friend's post and I hit share and I paste the text. Hit share, paste the text. And so for one whole day, I just feature somebody in my network. And I'll tell you, one, everybody that I do this for is like, oh my God, thank you so much. Second, I've got some amazing friends who are doing some amazing things.
Yeah.
And I like their things, but I don't put them on my feed. I don't hit the share button. And so I was like, you know what? Let's do that. So if you go to my Facebook feed or my LinkedIn feed now, you're going to see all these great friends of mine that are doing some amazing stuff. And I get to introduce my friends to my other friends to my network.
Oh, that's such a great idea. I'll have to start doing that, and I'll go check out your feed for that. So that's great advice. Let's talk about the funding portion of that. And then I do want to talk about the passive income too, because that was such a great point that you made. And I think the majority of people would not even know where to start. Well, first step, network, right? The right way. And then tell us more about raising funds. How does that go about? How do you approach people? What does that all entail?
So this is fairly complicated. When, as a business owner or entrepreneur, you get this idea and you want to run out and go do it. Yeah. You want to, and you're super excited. You've got this great idea. It's going to solve this problem. And the more you talk to people, the more encouraged you are. And you just go out there. You still need money.
Yeah.
That part is huge. Don't use your own money. So I had the founder of Bright White on my development team, or on Design Wall, my social platform for the design community. And she was our biz dev. So her claim to fame was that and he's not my favorite guy, but she was a sponsor for the American Miss America beauty pageant. And her claim to fame was that she sat with Donald Trump at his table. And I was like, all right. So as biz dev for my company, she would say, hey, I'm going to go get this person, or, I'm going to get this investor, or I'm going to go get that investor. And she kept failing at it. And she'd come back and she was getting really disappointed, saying, I said I'd go find Ashton Kutcher, and, he doesn't return my emails, and it's not working out. And I'm like, okay, so let's break this down. You keep going right to the target, but tell me how that went when you met Donald Trump. And she said, well, I was a sponsor and I sat at his table. And I was like, it couldn't have been that way. How did it really go? Mm-hmm. So after some, pulling it out of her, it turns out, she was a sponsor. But one day as she was bringing in like her supplies and stuff, some boxes fell out of her hand, and Donald Trump's wife, I don't know which one it was, helped her pick up the boxes. And so on the day of the Miss America beauty pageant, Marcy walked in, and Donald Trump's wife saw her and was like, oh, hey, are you all set up for your event? And she was like, yeah. And she's like, where are you sitting? She's like, oh, I'm at the sponsors table. She's like, oh, one of our friends dropped out and couldn't make it. Come sit with us. And so I told Marcy, I was like, look, you didn't go right up to Donald Trump. First, you talked to somebody at the event and you were a sponsor. And that's the third level. Right. You've got Donald Trump at the first level. You've got his wife at the second level. And at the third level, where this whole thing even started, was sponsoring the event. Had she not sponsored the event, she wouldn't have met Donald Trump's wife, and she wouldn't have been at the table. Here's the other thing. Had she walked right up to Donald Trump, he wouldn't have trusted her.
Right.
But because she sponsored the event organizers knew her. Mm-hmm. And then because she was a sponsor, Donald Trump's wife trusted her. Because she trusted her, Donald Trump trusted. Mm-hmm. Right? So when you're networking, don't go after your target. If you want to meet Barack Obama, you got to meet Michelle. And if you got to meet Michelle, you got to meet her publicist. There's levels.
Right.
Also, those levels help you get to that primary person.
Mm-hmm.
So in networking, I almost call it there's like these 3 levels, and I build a network around the people that I'm looking to get really in with.
Mm-hmm. And then when it comes to raising funds, it would just applying the same process.
Well, now they trust you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, if you're going for funding off of that primary person, mm-hmm. the secondary person usually wants to be like the first person. Mm-hmm. They're in their orbit.
Yeah.
So those guys are likely to invest before the primary guy will. Mm-hmm. And then the third orbit people, they're not even close to that. They're closer, but they're not as close as the second level. Mm-hmm. So you can raise a lot of funding from the third level and the second level, and then kind of come in with the icing on the primary person.
Mm-hmm. So it's really a long game. And I think that's something else that gets kind of lost in this space, especially the virtual space where I have been for the last couple of years, especially because of the pandemic too, is that there's a lot of it's here and now, right? It has to happen tomorrow because if you buy my program, it's going to be super, super fast when that person's journey wasn't fast. And don't get me started on the false promises there. But I wanted to get into the passive income because passive income is something that is very attractive, obviously, for what it is. But that is something that has been kind of blown out of proportion, I think, in many ways online. Because at least in my background, when you think passive income, you may associate that with network marketing, for example, direct sales, or you're going to build this team. That's your passive income right there. Those people are working for you and you're just getting the benefits of having signed up those people. After a while, it kind of runs on its own. You don't really need it because those people are essentially working for you, or thinking of like a subscription model. But until the point where you get to a following or to a product that's actually interesting, getting that recurring income, it takes time. So it is a beautiful idea, but just like what you said yourself, it took you 11 years to figure it out. I would love to hear your process. What were some of the things that you tried out that didn't work? What is some of your advice and where you are at today that, what's been successful?
Yeah. So passive income has zero to do with what type of business you're going to be in. Mm. It has everything to do with mentality. Mm. 100% of us were taught to be employees.
Right.
The first time you took a step and your parents were, got excited, you got this reward. If I do a thing, I get a reward. Totally. Later on in school, you would work hard to get a grade. And if you didn't do good results, you got an F and that felt bad. If you did good, you got an A and that felt good. And so we were always rewarded for our work. So that's not good. For passive income, I work hard not to work. Mm-hmm. So I do a lot of work on the front end. I've built my network. I've established my thinking. Mm-hmm. As far as businesses go, if it involves, first of all, I do not need to sit at a desk. That is not my value. And me doing a thing, that is not my value. My value is pulling together the network, introducing an opportunity to more people, and then delegating whenever that's possible. Other than that, I go for things that are very streamlined. Also, we were all taught to go get that job somewhere. Mm-hmm. We were taught to be employees. So if you look at Guy Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, he told you to work a day job, work your side hustle, and the day that your side hustle made more money than your day job, you were independently wealthy. Mm-hmm. But you were still working for yourself. Grant Cardone, he tells you to go out and leverage assets and accumulate debt because that debt is good. He's still working his butt off. He doesn't have to work as hard, and he's got this huge team under him. But if that goes wrong, he's got to fire a lot of people. The trick to this is create a lot of different income sources. Mm-hmm. I've got a t-shirt company that makes me $280 a week. It's not a ton, and I'm never going to survive on that, but it's one more set of passive income and I don't have to do any work on it. I've got a media broadcasting company for that one. Everything's sourced to my editors up in Canada. They make money. I make money. Everybody's happy. So the trick to this is do not rely on one source of income. Create passive, create a lot of different income streams. If they require too much of your attention, I'm not saying don't work hard at the beginning. Set it up, but set it up where you're not at the helm of this. If it requires your decision making every time, you've created another job for yourself, and you probably won't get paid enough. If you're having to put in 90 hours a week, then you're working for minimum wage, So I have no ego in the things that I do. We're setting up the nonprofit, and right away I said, hey, let's spread this out amongst track ambassadors. Let's figure out ways that people could benefit themselves. And so what you're looking for is that win-win-win for everybody. And then because of that, you get to kind of pull out and then you get to actually own a business. So the hardest part for us is that we were all taught to be employees. So that's why I say it's more of a mental game. After that, it's strategy.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That is so good. And the whole thing of that really struck a chord with me. If you're having to be super involved and you're at the helm of everything, then you've just created a job for yourself. Wow. Because that's the promise of entrepreneurship is flexibility. You could work remote, do all the things, but you could still be very much involved, and it could turn into a job where it consumes your life more than an actual job would, because you would have some time off when you're not needed because you're not the CEO of the company, right? So that's
well. Let's talk about that for just a split second. So we were all taught to be employees. So when we go start this new venture, usually that's because we worked for a place and we didn't like how they did it, or we found this solution and we think that we could do it better. So it's really just thinking I can do something better than the other guy. That's how most businesses are started. So we're still employees. We're just now self-employed. Here's the thing. What if I told you, Marta, start your business, blood, sweat, and tears, work your butt off. And then as your business is making the most amount of money, you're finally making money. What if I told you that was the perfect time to sell your business? Did you realize that as business owners, we tend to hold on to our businesses too long? We worked really hard. We were hardly making any money. Finally, we start making money. We start hiring people. Life is good. And now we sit on it and we actually choke our business to death, because in reality, I didn't like my last job. Why am I holding on to a company where I've got to show up to work every day? Because originally I wanted that freedom, and now I don't have the freedom. Now I'm just working for myself. Hell, I'm working for my employees too. So what if I told you that the right time to exit out of your business was right about that time that you thought, I finally made it? That's about the time to sell your house. If you hang on to it longer, things start going wrong. Let's say the recession hits. Let's say COVID hits. Imagine if you had built it and sold it. COVID wouldn't have meant anything to you. You would have been like, cool. Well, in the meantime, I'll go start another business because I'm sitting on a pile of cash. We were taught to be employees, and so we treat our businesses that same way. But business owners buy, sell, and trade their businesses. And as a business owner, I would love to encourage business owners, fellow business owners, to, yes, put in that hard work. Create this process or this thing that nobody else wanted to build. And once it's built and you can prove that it makes money, sell that sucker. Sell that to somebody else who just wants to buy your thing. And if you could tell a person, hey, I've got this business over here and I spend no time on it because I built it right and it makes this much money. What you end up selling your business for is the top end sales for the next 5 or 10 years. So let's say your top end sales were $30,000 a month. Let's just pretend.
Mm-hmm.
You can calculate that over the next 5 and 10 years and say, hey, I'm willing to sell my business for $40 million. Well, you know what? They don't have to build it. They didn't even know how to build it, but they were rich and they could afford that money. Now you've got $40 million in your pocket, 20, 10 million, whatever, 3 million, but you're not having to work for it. They kind of give it to you up front. And hey, if COVID hits or life happens, you got that $3 million in your pocket. And you know what? Your real trick was that you were able to build it in the first place. Right. That's your skill. Not that you could sit on it for 10 years and 20 years. So true. Because the real skill was that you were able to build it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow. Oh my gosh. This is such great wisdom. I love it so much. And I do, before we do our rapid fire, I did want to touch on the fact that I had you take my quiz to figure out what your personality type was. And as I suspected, you are a doer, but a very integrated doer that's gone through lots of growth there. Especially, I would say, with the idea of I don't have to do it all myself and I can delegate, and really looking forward to that. That's such a testament of growth and not wanting to be the front of everything. Or what you just said, I don't start my businesses with me in mind. And that's such a thing that many entrepreneurs kind of forget, that the whole point is you're supposed to be serving and helping others. And that's what's going to give you the return. That's what's going to make it a win for you, is when it's a win-win. So I love that so much. Let's get to our rapid fire real quick. I'll just tell you the 5 steps one at a time, and then you tell me what comes to mind. So you ready?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So the first one is notice yourself.
Notice yourself. Just a word association.
Yeah, no, whatever. What do you think? And it could be business context, mindset context, whatever it is. Like when I say the phrase, notice yourself, what do you think?
I'm not keen on myself.
Okay, next one is...
I don't even like me.
The next one is listen to yourself.
Yeah, I hate listening to myself. For doing podcasts and video and all this stuff, I don't even like listening to myself.
That's why you like interviewing more than.
Oh yeah.
Okay. The next one is forgive yourself.
That's a tough one. I am riddled with guilt and all that stuff. I was raised Roman Catholic.
Okay, so lots of forgiveness to be given, showing yourself some grace there. And the next one is empower yourself.
That one's interesting. I have been through hell and back, so I know that I can handle a lot, but I don't know that I forgive myself for it. I just know that I'm a fighter. I can fight this one through. I've hit the bottom. I've seen the bottom. I've kissed the bottom. And I'm not afraid of the bottom.
That's powerful. And last but not least, transform yourself.
Yeah, that's every day, right? I fall backwards into my day every day. And I just trust that the universe and God and life is going to work out. Life is actually not about me. So I feel like the world really doesn't care. So I can go do all kinds of stuff today and not be afraid of it.
Totally. Oh, this was so great. Thank you so much for joining us, giving such amazing insight and advice. And thank you for inviting me to be a part of your nonprofit, Denver Tech Alley. I will be sure to put more information in the show notes, especially for the locals to check out, because we're going to have some fun events planned out from here on out. So thanks again. And I'm excited for us to keep collaborating. Thanks so much for tuning in today. Don't forget to connect with Joseph. He has lots of amazing content out there on social media and so much knowledge and wisdom to share. Until next time, bye.